Taking my time as the sun it shines on me and everyone that has come to find.
Hey YouTube, how you doing? This is As Seen by Dave. I am in Lompoc, California on a beautiful morning. Rained last night. I guess I should say we had some showers last night, but it's a beautiful clear day today. Skies are blue, as you can see behind me. About 45 minutes to an hour above Santa Barbara, California, the Central Coast. Now, I can make it in 45 minutes. All you police officers out there, highway patrol, do not come find me. Now, today we're going to be talking about a possible, and that's a disclaimer, the first case of the Zodiac killer. No proof saying it is the Zodiac killer, but there are some similarities between this case and the Zodiac killings up north in California. Now, this involves two high school seniors, Robert Domingos, who is a varsity high school football team on the varsity Lompoc high school football team. He was a left guard, maybe a right guard on the team. He was the president of high school club, Future Farmers of America. He grew up on the outskirts of Lompoc, which, let's see, over there somewhere. He grew up on the outskirts on a farm, ranch. From what I can find, it seems like the Domingos family owned some land out there on Drum Canyon Road. There is a Domingos Road out there. I don't know. I'm assuming it is related to the Domingos family. However, not a lot is out there about it. So anyway, let's get back to the story. So Robert Domingos was an 18-year-old high school senior. His girlfriend, actually fiance, they were planning to be married in the fall after graduating in 1963. So the fall of 1963, Robert Domingos, I will try and put a picture here of Robert, maybe here in this region here, and his fiance, Linda Edwards, who was born in Denver, Colorado in 1961. Her mother and her, I think it was just her mother, she might have had siblings, moved out here to Lompoc. Lompoc is a town, there's a mission here, so there's a Spanish mission. Previously, it was home to the Chumash, Native Americans. This was their land, the Chumash. Sadly, it was taken over, and this became a military town. So there is a Vandenberg Air Force Base that's been here. It's now a Space Force base. Linda Edwards was 17, almost 18. Her fiance, Robert Domingos was 18. They were both seniors at Lompoc High. This took place on June 4th, 1963. A day or two before their high school graduation was the official senior ditch day. Now back then schools would actually have, so Lompoc High had a senior ditch day where all the seniors would go out and ditch school. It was known, it wasn't like they were getting in trouble. From what I've read, the school had records of the seniors that were, going to be participating in these activities. Well, Robert and Linda decided to go down to Gaviota Beach. They were just down Gaviota State Beach. They weren't at Gaviota State Beach. They were about 25 miles south of here, of Lompoc. They found a nice little beach in the early 60s. People would go out there and surf fish. They would fish, they would surf, they would go out there and sunbathe. Now, Robert and Linda had been out there previously. Today, actually not today, obviously, it's 2025, but June 4th, 1963, Linda and Robert were out there on Senior Ditch Day. They were sunbathing, going in water. They hiked down a trail. So back then, it's not possible now, but back then, between the two sides of the freeway, north and south 101, there was in the middle, in the median, there was a small parking lot. So Robert parked his 1957 Pontiac in the middle. They crossed the southbound 101, walked down a trail. That's a perfect reenactment. They walked down a trail. They were sunbathing down there when it's speculated that they were approached by someone. This someone had pre-cut rope, what they think is a .22 rifle, so a .22 caliber rifle, multiple boxes of .22 long-range ammo boxes were found at the scene. Robert and Linda were they were just two teenagers in love, getting married in a couple months, graduating in 1 to 2 days after this Senior Ditch Day. They were murdered. Now, like I said, this individual had a .22 rifle. They don't know if they, were talked to at first, but the evidence shows that Robert tried to fight back because he had some bruising on his face. He's a high school football player. I'm sure he wasn't a small guy. Even in the 60s, he had to be at least a little bit athletic. He had some defensive wounds, but they were both shot in the back. So it's believed that they were running away from their assailant. They were trying to run back up this little washout. So it is believed that Linda, the assailant, had Linda tie up Robert's hands, and there was a fight. And unfortunately, the assailant, the murderer, killed Robert and Linda that day, June 4th, 1963. Robert, again, at the age of 18. Linda, just shy of her 18th birthday, was murdered. And there was a shack at the time. It is long gone, but there was a shack down there. It kind of, it had 4 walls. It had a doorway and a window, and there was a tarp kind of sitting over the doorway. The assailant dragged the 2 bodies into the shack. He put Robert face down, I believe it was face down in the shack, and he put Linda's body on top of him. Now, the sheriff said that Linda's body was face up on top of Robert, I believe, and her one-piece bathing suit was cut open with her bare breast exposed. Now, there was no signs that she was sexually assaulted, so I don't know if the assailant had that in mind or if he just wanted it to be, just trying to, I don't even know, make a mockery out of it, maybe make it embarrassing to have her bare breast shown after she was already deceased. Whatever it was, sick individual. Then he tried to light the tarp on fire, maybe to try and burn his evidence. Maybe, there was no reports of other people being around at that time, so nobody was a witness. However, the assailant, the murderer, tried to set the shack on fire. He burned the tarp, but I say he, I'm assuming it's a he, burned the tarp. The tarp went out, so the murderer left the box of matches, or the pack of matches there, and some boxes of ammunition. Now, the box of ammunition, they tried to trace back. They thought maybe they were purchased from a store on base in Vandenberg Air Force Base at that time. Again, it was an Air Force base at that time. They thought maybe those boxes of ammo were purchased there, but that led to a dead end. So this case has been unsolved since 1963. Robert and Linda were murdered on Senior Ditch Day. Two high schoolers from Lompoc Senior High School in Lompoc, California, murdered in cold blood as they were at the beach, minding their own business, you assume. And it's been unsolved. People are saying, maybe it was the Zodiac killer. There's no proof saying it is the Zodiac killer, but it was 5 or so years prior to the first official victims from Zodiac. So maybe the Zodiac killer was possibly testing out. I hate to say testing out, but was, just getting his itch for murders. The definition of a serial killer is to actually murder, wait a while, and then have additional murders again. If somebody just goes on a killing spree, they're not really a serial killer. They're not considered a serial murderer without that pause in time. So maybe, again, I put up a disclaimer. I'm not saying this was the Zodiac killer, but people are saying that there are signs pointing to maybe it possibly was the Zodiac killer. This was one of his first two victims, his first crime, and maybe he just got better and wanted to branch off and start his rituals. The Zodiac killer was leaving signs and wanting people to be his slaves in the afterlife, apparently. But truly sad. Rest in peace to Robert. Rest in peace to Linda. Unfortunately, I was hoping when I got to the cemetery that they were buried near each other, since they were husband and wife, or soon to be husband and wife. But Robert is with his family, it looks like. He's right next to his dad and mom. So I will show you their graves and we'll pay our respects to them. And hopefully one day somebody will solve these murders. And I assume, being almost 62 years after the murder took place, I assume the killer is dead by now, but you never know. But maybe just to get some reassurance, maybe to have an idea of how this happened, who did this, why they did this. So here we are at the Lompoc Cemetery. And there is, you can see, it's just beautiful, beautiful day. Look at the blue skies. Oh, got a little sun ray in that shot. But I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful day. Rained some last night. Now clear skies. So here's the Domingos family plot. Thanks to the gentleman at the front gate, the front office, I should say, who helped me find the exact grave sites, the exact grave location. So here is Robert's mom and dad. There's George Domingos. He died a couple years, about 8 years after Robert. And his mom, Alice, who died in 2012. And right next to them is Robert George Domingos, May 12th, 1945 to June 5th, 1963. Not even a month into his 18th year on Earth, he was taken. From all accounts, I watched another YouTube video, maybe I'll put the link here, of John Averett, who became a psychologist. He was 2 years the junior of Robert and Linda. He had talked to them a little bit. He knew them a little bit in high school. He just said Robert was a genuinely great guy. John said that he was on the JV football team, played the same position, same number as Robert. And John ended up getting hurt. And after surgery, his coach was there, and so was Robert. So it just sounds like Robert was a really good person, nice guy, not your typical jock. So rest in peace, Robert George Domingos. So now we're visiting Linda Faye Edwards, who was Robert's fiance. You can see this flagpole here. Just over that hill is where Robert is buried with his family. And Linda is over here. So like I said, I was hoping they'd be closer, maybe next to each other, since they were high school sweethearts. But unfortunately not. So here's Linda Faye Edwards, June 5th, 1960. I'm sorry, June 7th, 1945 to June 5th, 1963. So wow, she was 2 days shy of her 18th birthday. 2 days shy of her 18th birthday. So 17 years old. Now June 4th is actually the day that Robert and her went out to Gaviota Beach, and actually when they were murdered, but June 5th is when they were found. Robert's dad and Robert's cousin, I believe, and his uncle, because Robert's dad called the authorities, called Lompoc Police Department on June 5th when he did not return the night of June 4th, but since it hadn't been 24 hours since he was last seen, they weren't able to help him yet. But Robert's cousin told Robert's dad that he remembers where Linda and Robert like to go in Gaviota Beach. Their spot that they like to visit. And they were able to flag down a highway patrol officer. And the highway patrol officer is the one that found them on June 5th in the shack. So rest in peace, Robert. Rest in peace, Linda. I'm sorry that you guys were taken so soon and by such vicious means. So young, so full of life, ready to embark on the world after graduating high school. So I am trying to find the crime scene where Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards were murdered. However, due to changes in the area, you're no longer allowed to park in the middle, the median, I should say, of the 101. And there is a guardrail right where you would want to walk down. So I parked down the road a little bit, and I am right next to the train tracks. So I'm walking along the train tracks, but you can see I have the beautiful Pacific Ocean, which I'm sure is very cold. But you can see out there is the Santa Barbara Channel Islands. So let's see if we can find it. I am, like I said, I'll be walking down the train tracks, probably a couple hundred yards to try and get down to the path that Robert and Linda would have taken in 1963. So let's see if we can find it. So I think I might have found the wash. I'm not going to go down there because it doesn't look like there's a pathway any longer. I assume that maybe you're able to walk down there at one point and then go down there into the sand of the beach. It was something like this where wash, I heard in the late 60s, there may have been some flooding. So some of this got washed out even more so than what it was in 1963. Imagine they would have parked right across. So there's a train track here. This right here where you can see some cars and trucks coming by. That truck right there is on the southbound 101. On the other side is the northbound 101. And then over here, I'll try and get a little closer, but just on the other side of the southbound 101, there's all this trees. You can see this tree line. At one time you were able to park there. And that's where Robert would have parked his 1957 Pontiac. Parked his car there, walked across the 101 southbound, walked over the train tracks, and then walked down here into this wash out into the beach. And the shack would have been somewhere in here in the wash. Like I said, the shack is long gone. As I was walking back to my truck, I noticed this guy must be from 1960s, right? The Amazon Smile Box. Sure, looks like somebody's down here bringing some wood, maybe for a fire or something. I don't know. Who knows? Who wants to know? I surely don't want to know what people are up to after hours. There's a lot of transients in Santa Barbara County at the current time. Well, I guess California. But you never know. They're building a little fort, starting a fire at night to keep warm.
What is cruel, but there's nothing new. Living in the moment is the only truth. Let's go slow. Living in the moment.
Graduation that Robert and Linda were to be a part of a few days after their bodies were found. At the high school on the football field, there were 2 spots, one for Robert, one for Linda, that were open. There were memorial wreaths and flowers for them. And unfortunately, time went on and things did not progress. Later on in the fall of 1963, JFK was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. So the news went on. The news of small town kids being murdered turned to old news. And Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department, 1971 or 1972, they either reopened the case, or maybe that's when the case got more action, and that's when they started thinking, well, maybe this was the Zodiac killer. His first couple victims, or at least linked to the Zodiac killer somehow, but I guess there's really no way of knowing. And it could just be speculation. I'm definitely not saying it was a Zodiac killer. There's no way to know that. Rest in peace, Robert. Rest in peace, Linda. Like I said, I hope you both are resting easily. I don't want you guys to be forgotten. Thanks everyone for watching. As always, like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. More coming out. More and more coming out. Everyone that's watched previously, thank you so much. As Seen by Dave here on YouTube, and As Seen by Dave on Instagram.